Good morning, students. Welcome to online class. Today we are going to see life in villages and towns. So let me see life in villages and towns. That is, life in villages we see means use of iron tools and how they improved agriculture, growth of crafts and guilds, and about the trade and details about the village society. And in the second urbanization, we will see about evidence from the past, archaeological sources, literature, and we will discuss about the Arikamedu, that is the port town. So the process by which people move from villages to cities, leading to an increase in the proportion of urban population in an area, is known as urbanization. After the collapse of the cities of the Harappan civilization, for several centuries, there were no urban centers in the Indian subcontinent. Then, around 600 BCE, towns and cities started developing once more. Most of them came up along the banks of the river Ganga and its tributaries. This phase of urbanization in India, that is from the 6th to the 3rd centuries BCE, is known as the second urbanization. Use of iron tools and improved agriculture. So the greater use of iron to make agricultural tools like axes and plows was an important feature of this period. The iron axes were sharper and stronger than stone tools, making it easier to clear forest, that is cutting trees. The iron plow was more effective than the wooden plow, as it could dig deeper into heavy and dry soils. As a result of these improved methods, more land could be brought under cultivation and more produce could be obtained from the same plot of land. The rulers also built canals, wells, and tanks for irrigation. This allowed to be grown on drier land and in places with less rainfall. As a result of all these factors, there was an increase in the production of crops and people began to trade the surplus. This earned the rulers more taxes. Growth of crafts and guilds. With the production of surplus food, people were now able to spend time learning and developing different crafts. Soon, the villages had a variety of craftspeople like potters, weavers, goldsmiths, and ironsmiths. As towns began to grow, artisans and craftspeople began to move from the villages to the towns in search of larger markets and better opportunities. For example, the greater demand for iron implements made it possible for ironsmiths to prosper in these towns. These craftspeople organized themselves into associations or guilds called shrenis. presided over by a Pramukha. That is the head person called as Pramukha. The guilds provided training in the crafts, made rules and regulations, fixed the price of goods, and also gave loans in times of need. Let me see about the trade. As agricultural and craft production increased, trade grew. The main articles of trade included agricultural products, textiles, silk, jewelry, pottery, and a variety of other handicrafts. The Jataka tales tell us that traders traveled from villages in Magadha to Koshala, Mathura, and Takshila, and even to other countries from ports on the western and eastern ports of India. Just like guilds of artisans, traders too had guilds that served similar functions. Let me see about the village society. Villages in both northern and southern India had a class of rich landowners who often also functioned as the heads of the villages. In North India, the village headman was known as Grama Bhojaka, while in the south he was called Velala. He was responsible for collecting the taxes for the king and maintaining law and order in the village. His position was hereditary. He is not an electing person. Independent farmers who owned smaller plots of land were known as Grihapatis. That is in North India. In southern we see means we called Ulavar. Like that, landless farmers who worked on others' lands were known as Dasa Karmakaras in North India. In southern we call Adimai and Kadaisia. Let me see the same, that is the difference in village society, how they called that position of the large landowners, they may be called Grama Bhojaka in north side. In south side they will call Velala. Like small farmers they will be called Grihapatis, and in southern side they will be known as Ulavar. Landless laborers, that is they called Dasha Karmakaras in northern side, and in southern side they will be Adimai, Kadaisia. Let me see about the second urbanization. As agricultural production increased and as trade grew and crafts multiplied, towns and cities started developing in the Indian subcontinent once more. The main cities came to be established in the fertile Ganga plains and the Malwa plateau region. Some of the more important urban centers that came up were Rajagriha, Pataliputra, Vaishali, Kaushambi, Shravasti, Nalanda and Takshila. The new towns and cities that emerged during this time became important for different reasons. Capitals of kingdoms became important urban centers as they were centers of political and administrative activities. Pataliputra, Ujjaini and Shravasti are examples of these. Other townships became known as markets. Farmers and artisans brought their surplus for sale to these places, which were usually located on trade routes. The cities of Ujjain and Takshila are examples. Religion too played a role in the growth of urban areas. Pilgrims used to gather in temple towns in large numbers during festivals. Examples of such towns are Ayodhya, Bodh Gaya, Benares, that is Varanasi, Mathura, Amaravati, and Vaishali. Some towns became famous because the craftspeople specialized in making particular articles. For example, Benares was famous for its silk. We know about this Banarasi silk. As a result of these improved methods, more land could be brought under cultivation and more produce could be obtained from the same plot of land. The rulers also built canals, wells, and tanks for irrigation. This allowed to be grown on drier. Some cities like Nalanda and Takshila also became renowned as centers of learning. Rulers built massive forts around the important towns and cities to mark the extent of their territories for protection and to display their wealth and power. Let me see about the village society. Villages in both northern and southern India had a class of rich landowners who often also functioned as the heads of the villages. In North India, the village headman was known as Grama Bhojaka, while in the south he was. Here we can see how they display the carpet. Towns. That's why we discussed so far. Capital towns. We can say Pataliputra, Ujjain, Shravasti. And as port towns, Arikamedu, Bharat, Kaveripattinam. Pilgrimage towns we see means Kausambi, Vaishali. Let me discuss about archaeological sources. Archaeological sources include Ashoka's edicts, coins, pottery, tools, and implements. Remains of craft items created during this period tell us about life in our ancient cities. The pottery of this time is referred to as northern black polished pottery. This is because the clay pots had a highly polished black surface. Blackware pottery, 5th to 7th century CE, found in Mohalmari. Let me see about the village society. Villages in both northern and southern India had a class of rich landowners who often also functioned as the heads of the villages. In North India, the village headman and ring wells have been unearthed from the sites of many cities of ancient India, such as at Purana Kila in Delhi. These wells are built as a series of ceramic rings placed one on top of another, used either for drawing water or for drainage. This archaeological discoveries tell us about the technological level of the times. Literature. Here the literary sources for this period include the Jataka tales, Chanakya's Arthashastra, the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, written by an unknown Greek sailor, and the Sangam literature from South India. The Tamil text of the Sangam age, Patinapalai, has vividly described the ancient Chola capital of Kaveri Pattinam. It's known as Puhar. Let me discuss about archaeological sources. Archaeological sources include Ashoka's edicts, coins, pottery, tools, and implements. Remains of craft items created during this period tell us about life in our ancient cities. The pottery of Let me see about the trade. As agricultural and craft production increased, trade grew. The main articles of trade included agricultural products, textiles, silk, jewelry, pottery, and a variety of other handicrafts. Among the artifacts found here are Roman beads and gems, amphorae, and Aretine ware. Here, here it is an amphorae and Aretine ware. Archaeologists have also excavated a large brick building thought to be a warehouse over 45 meters in length. Lime plaster had been used to make its walls watertight. Small tanks that may have been used to dye cloth have also been found. Arikamedu is an important relic of India's ancient past, a time when it enjoyed a flourishing trade with the Mediterranean lands of Europe. Traders are believed to have traveled from far and wide to trade gems, pearls, spices, and silk here. Thank you, students.